Hello, everyone. It's been a minute. It's been a few weeks. And what has happened in those few weeks is the Con, however you choose to pronounce it, film festival. Um, an interesting film festival, I would say. Before we're gonna talk about the individual films and contenders and all that, but I'd just say overall, this can seem to, at least at the beginning, be a little bit of a disappointment in terms of a lot of the films, kind of not living up to expectations. But towards those last few days, there seemed to be a little comeback for some of those films. We'll touch on all of those films, but what were your thoughts on the ceremony, not ceremony, the festival as a whole, before we get into the individual films and if they are contenders?
Yeah, it was a really interesting festival this year. I was very impressed. Well, I'm always impressed. I was not surprised to be impressed, but nonetheless, I was very impressed with Greta Gerwig's role as the
Yes.
jury president. I thought that she led with a intellect on cinema that I feel like we haven't I feel we haven't heard a lot from when it comes to the people that we've entrusted to push Hollywood specifically forward. I think Christopher Nolan has worn that cap very well, but I'm glad to see
Mhm.
there are new filmmakers that, really care about the history and the legacy of film, and I think you saw that in how she spoke about a lot of, eras of film that were inspiring her decisions and the decisions of the jury, and I really appreciated a lot of the decisions they made as far as what was awarded. I thought that also Lily Gladstone had some really beautiful things to say over the course of the festival. So yeah, I'm very excited to talk about it. I mean, we should, I guess, just jump right in with Neon. Five
Yeah,
years in a row. It's it's
5 years in
it's
a row, that's crazy.
it's it's really impressive. So, what do you make of because I do think that that fact surprised me, and I wondered, is it just that they don't brand themselves as either successfully or as specifically as an A24, or are they just like in the background, always securing these wins? I mean, Parasite was a huge win in the history of the Oscars, and
Mhm.
Neon was responsible for that. I mean, what do you make of this? Because it is quite a feat for one distributor to have the home of anything this prestigious
Yeah.
5 years in a row.
It's weird because it's not like they know, like, it's not like with the Academy where it's the same people voting every year and you kinda know their taste, and it's not like they know what films they might gravitate towards because the jury changes every year, so the taste changes every year. So, honestly, I just think they might be a little lucky right now in terms of, I mean, they went into the festival with Anora. Most years, they actually they picked up Anatomy and a few other films during the festival that ended up winning the Palm. But I don't know. It's getting a little suspicious, but I don't mind. I haven't seen an aura, but I like three-fourths of the winners that they've had so far. I think they've got their
Mhm.
hand on the pulse a little bit. But
Which one do you
um,
not like out of the 4?
I'm not huge on Triangle of Sadness.
Oh, did it hit a little too close to home with you and your twin?
Yeah, yeah, me and my twin. Yeah, exactly. Hello to everyone joining us. The few questions that we can get into first, but let us first actually, you know, slideshows are our specialties around here. 2024 Cannes Film Festival, the winners, losers, and contenders. So we're going to go over pretty much all of the major films, some of the reviews, all of that. And then we're going to say at the end of each of them whether or not we think they are a future Oscar contender. So starting off with what we were just talking about, that's what we're going to do at the end. Is it is an Oscar contender? Anora, it won the big one, the Palme d'Or. As we mentioned, Neon once again getting it. In case you don't know, the premise is Anora, a sex worker from Brooklyn, gets her chance at a Cinderella story when she meets and marries the son of an oligarch, a Russian oligarch. Or once the news reaches Russia, her fairy tale is threatened as the parents return to New York to get the marriage annulled. I've heard that the second half gets like once the family tries to come back and get it annulled, it gets very like fast paced, intense. Kind of, I've heard comparisons to Utkan Gems and stuff like that. One of the best reviewed at the festival as well with an 89. Mikey Madison seems like lots of praise for her performance, as well as I forget his name, the Russian boy, but there were lots of notices for his performance as well. I'm calling him the new Russian Timothy Chalamet. But yeah, thoughts on Honora?
Yes. Well, first off, we should mention that this audience is pretty savvy to these things, but just in case, anything above an 80 on Metacritic is outstanding.
Yeah.
This isn't Rotten Tomatoes. It's a little bit different of a scale, and so
Mhm.
verging on 90 is spectacular, and I think exactly
Yeah.
where this movie wants to be, especially for the subject material, because Red Rocket, Florida Project, these have been Tangerine, the three. I believe those are his Sean Baker's three features. Correct me in the comments if I'm missing one.
Yeah.
Um,
That's what I
but
know. Yeah.
these aren't up everybody's alley. I mean, we saw that with the Florida Project, which was the biggest showing that he's had at the
Mhm.
Academy Awards, and it was for one nomination for Willem
Yeah.
Dafoe and Best Supporting Actor. So this is a huge win. I think whether it speaks to people maybe catching up with Sean Baker, um, or whether this is just leaps and bounds ahead of what he's already done. I mean, I have seen all three of his movies, and I think they're all three just brilliant,
Yeah.
brilliant films. So I already had my eye on this. I'm very excited about this. I think Mikey Madison is another Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Uh,
That
you know,
entire cast, yeah.
yeah, the royalty of the next generation of Hollywood. All they needed was Florence Pugh, kind of, snuck in
Yeah.
there somewhere, or Zendaya, so, the cast of challengers just hiding in the
Yeah.
background. But
Red-faced.
yeah, I think this bodes very well for her. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think we're in a very interesting period right now where, and we've talked about this on the show, where the idea of the Oscar bait is going away, and I think
Mhm.
nobody embodies that more. Very few people embody it more than Sean Baker. I mean, whether it was aesthetically with filming Tangerine on the iPhone, or just the
Yeah.
stories that he tells and the people that he wants to tell a story about. I think that's something Greta Gerwig captured when she spoke about why they chose this film as the Palme d'Or winner. I also really respect that he is a filmmaker that is actively pushing the medium forward in all of his movies, especially, and I think that's where the unique point of views and perspectives of his characters come into play. This was another theme that ran through Gerwig's summation of why Anora won. So yeah, I
Mhm.
think this has a real chance. Neon is a very strong campaigner.
Yeah.
The benefit of something like this is that it has a wide, like this isn't. I don't believe it is slated for a summer release, so it's going to have a lot of
Yeah.
goodwill, a lot of good press building. I'm sure it'll hit another festival before it goes wide, where it'll probably do very well because it's coming off of this good buzz. And then yeah,
Mhm.
I think this is a film that's going to stand out and do very well for Neon and everybody involved. So I'm very excited if Sean Baker does make it to Best Director, which maybe
Yeah.
we could consider,
I
especially,
think so.
especially because the strikes. Hopefully, we don't get another one.
Oh
Maybe
god,
limit
yeah.
the crowd, but I mean, Sean Baker getting his first Best Directing nomination
He's
would
overdue
be a
for some
really,
awards
really
love,
exciting. So
for
yeah.
sure. I'm happy. I think he's gonna have his awards moment this year as we can transition to, is it an Oscar contender? Yes. I think its prospects are. I think it's getting into Best Picture. This is Neon's big push. There were rumors before that it might have a summer release actually, but I think now they're probably going to release it similar to their other contenders like Anatomy and Triangle of Sadness, where it ends up releasing in the fall. It'll hit a few of the other festivals and then release in the fall. Director, I think we see it pretty much every year, our Cannes director. Especially since especially out of Cannes, there doesn't seem to be, which is interesting, an international feature film that I think will probably contend for Best Picture. I don't think we've found that at Cannes, so I don't know if we'll find an international film that will get into Best Picture for the entire award season. We'll have to wait and see. So I think he'll get director. Mikey Madison, I think, will get actress. She's like the centerpiece of the entire film.
And we're talking about nominations here, not wins. I want to
Nominations,
clarify
not
for our
wins.
audience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, no. We don't talk about wins until much later on, guys. And then original screenplay. Editing, I think it can contend for. He edited it himself as well, Sean Baker. And I've saw lots of notices for the fast pace. And Mark, as Roberto mentions, Mark
Yeah.
Eidelstein, Russian Timothy Chalamet for supporting actor. I've heard lots of great stuff about his performance as well. And just in that, did you watch that like 30-second clip that they released as well?
Oh no.
No,
Was there
he was good in that clip.
Okay.
He was
I didn't know
funny.
we
I
had
think
more
it'll
than
be a
that
funny
in one
film too.
image.
No, we've got 2 images and a 30-second clip, guys. We're feeding for Anora. Um, so yeah, I think Do we see Anora having screenings at Telluride Tiffer? Not Venice. I don't think it can. I think Venice only takes first showings, but I think Telluride definitely. TIFF probably, but I would definitely think it's going to Telluride.
I think
Maybe.
one of the C's, because it's going to want to build off of this momentum, and it's going to want to build off this momentum in a North American film festival to get it in front of potentially a lot of Oscar pundits and voters. That I think that's a main priority for them now. They've got everybody's
Yeah.
attention, but they also it's May, and the
Mhm.
Oscars are in March, I believe.
Yeah.
So
But
yeah,
it's good to have a
but
few
it's
earlier contenders and not releasing
oh
in
for sure.
December.
Especially a movie like this because, you worry about, being the front runner too early or something, but this is a type of movie that I don't think will ever really become the front runner,
No.
even if it's, let's say it was, let's say it had the bona fides and the quality of an Oppenheimer. It still wouldn't become a front runner until at least October, November, because it has to be introduced to the culture in ways that, people that are not watching this or talking in this conversation yet, like
Yeah.
I guarantee you, a lot of people still don't know this movie exists. So this is
Mhm.
a step in the right direction, but they still have a work to do to get this,
Yeah.
especially this sort of log line. It reminds me a little bit of Sound of Metal, and that they're going to have to get people to go past the log line and give this movie a shot. And
Mhm.
that's why awards like these matter. And people, Greta Gerwig, that's the power of getting somebody like that as the jury president because she's now vouching for it, and a lot of people respect her, so they will give it a shot because people like her and Lily Gladstone and the rest of the jury were praising it all weekend.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree. I think NIF it would definitely go to. I think it'll pretty much hit all the same stuff that Anatomy did last year and release around the same time. It'll premiere at Cannes and then hit TIFF, Telluride, and NIF would be my guess, and then release afterwards. Um, so yeah, that's our first one, our first Oscar contender. Moving on to the next film, Emilia Perez, which for award-wise, I think it was the only film here that won 2 awards. It won Best Actress for 4 different actresses: Carla Sofia Gascon, Zoe Saldana, Selena Gomez, and Adriana Paz. And it also won the Jury Prize, which is pretty much like third place award. And Netflix bought it for a hefty 20 million bucks. So I think we could maybe read that as this being their contender this year. Because we'll have the only thing they really have is the piano lesson currently, which I don't feel super confident about making a best picture, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think
Um,
just real quick on the piano lesson, you would probably liken that movie's chances and aspirations to Fences, but
or
Fences
Ma
had
Rainey.
robust. Yeah, but they want offenses. They don't
They
want a
want
Ma Rainey.
offenses, but they'll probably get a Ma Rainey.
Exactly, and that's because it's on
Yeah.
Netflix. Fences had robust theatrical business. It was a hit in 2016, coupled with Hidden Figures, which also did extremely well for a movie of that scope.
It was
And
theatrical. I
what?
think that
Yeah,
helps.
it wasn't Rogue One, which came out at the same time, but
No,
for that,
no.
Fences was a sure hit, and
Yeah.
that's what contributed in many ways to a lot of nominations and the one win for Viola Davis. So I really think it's going to have to be if Samuel L. Jackson is really going to be taken seriously as a potential winner, that will push it. But I agree with you. I think this movie, given what we've heard about it, the general premise, a lot of the rumors as far as like or not rumors, but people's first responses, I do think this is a strong contender for Netflix. But they need to get these movies in
Yeah.
theaters. They really do. It
They
really
do.
hurts them.
They
It's the
do. For
number
those
one thing that hurts Netflix movies.
Oh yeah, it's a big issue, but they don't seem to be budging on it, unfortunately. But the premise for people who don't know, a woman is tasked with assisting an escaped Mexican cartel leader who is undergoing sex reassignment surgery to both evade the authorities and affirm her gender. The lawyer, I believe, is played by Zoe Saldana, and I believe that the cartel leader is Carla Sofia Gascon. So I think that's like a dual lead situation. I don't know who they would put in lead and who in supporting because they would fraud one of them. Probably Carla in lead and Zoe in supporting is what I would guess, and then everyone else would also be in supporting. Selena Gomez, Oscar campaign. Watch, she gets an Oscar nomination before she even gets an Emmy nomination for Only Murders in the Building. I don't think she's going to get an Oscar. Well, speaking of which, we
Yeah,
can talk about Oscars chances. Yes, probably. I put a probably there because there is a world where Netflix picks up something else. and they prioritize that, and then this doesn't end up getting a ton. But right now, if they don't have anything else, it's a musical. We'll have to see. The
It
reviews have been
is?
mostly positive. You didn't know that? It's a musical. Yes, it's a musical, which is the reviews are mostly positive out of 70. That's pretty good. But some of the detractors did say that the musical scenes kind of like didn't match the tone and kind of took them out. But yeah, there's lots of singing, lots of Zoe Saldana singing, Selena
Let's
Gomez singing.
go. Woo!
So we'll have to see. If it is Netflix's main contender, I would think it's going to get like all these nominations: picture, director, because Jack Oyard, however you say his last name, Odard,
And
is a acclaimed director.
I think what would differentiate this, because when you look back at Netflix's trajectory and filmography, a lot of times the issue with them is that they are leading with films from established filmmakers who've already had their days in the sun. Alfonso
Mhm.
Cuarón already had Gravity. Martin Scorsese, need I say more? You know, even somebody like Noah Baumbach, you know, people have seen him do that type of movie before. And also he had the unfortunate, you know, he was the secondary priority for
That
Netflix, I
film
think,
did the
going
best
into
that
that
it could have
season.
done, anyways. Honestly,
I think if Irishman, if they were not distracted with Irishman, I think there was a world where they could have fought harder for original screenplay. They could have fought harder for Best
for a
Actress for
win,
Scarlett
maybe.
Johansson.
Yeah,
There were paths for that movie. But again, but without theatrical business, I don't think so. So, but anyway, we see a lot of these big name filmmakers. This is a discovery, and I think that's new for them, and or at
Mhm.
least I don't think, you know, you would have to go back to something like Mudbound. I feel like, which, you know, if this became their priority, for something like that. So
Yeah.
I'm very intrigued with this movie. I also think that when it comes to the actors, I think there is maybe more respect for Zoe Saldana than
Mhm.
we maybe perceive. I mean, she is
Just
one of the
because
highest
she's in the
grossing
big,
actors of all
she is the
time.
highest grossing actress. Period.
Yeah,
She's
but
number one.
well, I don't know. Is that true? Because I know
She
Scarlett
is
Johansson always gets talked
because of the
about as
second
well.
Avatar. She's now number one. Yeah.
That went above.
Yeah.
But so I think that there could be a groundswell, similarly to America Ferrera, as far as an actor who has been a journeywoman, been in all these great. I mean, she's gone back, you know, to Pirates of the Caribbean. Like she has been, and she's a quantifiable movie star, and she's also done some really beautiful work along the way. And I think this could be a
Yeah.
really great way to kind of cap off maybe the last 25 years of a career for her. So I'm very
Yeah.
excited for this movie. I'm very excited it's a musical. Thank you for
Yeah,
that.
I broke the news. Wow, I would have thought you would have known that. But yeah, I think Zoe Saldana, as someone asked, I think they're going to put her in supporting, and then Carla Sofia Gascon in lead. And I think
Mhm.
the supporting actress contenders, I do think Zoe would be the main contender over Selena, because Selena couldn't even. I think there's a little bias probably towards Selena Gomez more
Yeah.
so than Zoe Saldana, who's
Did
been in a
Selena
ton of
write
movies.
the music? Did she write any of the
She might have
songs?
written a song. I don't know.
Maybe
She
that's where
sings
she
in
goes.
it, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I think I mean, I wouldn't necessarily correlate Only Murders, Omissions at the Emmys with this, because that to me feels more like people loving that, because people love that show because of Martin Short and Steve Martin, and Selena Gomez is
hmm
the fun little quirky twist on it. But it really, like, for the people voting, I think that's what that show is for them, and that's why Meryl Streep was
yeah.
brought in, because she definitely fits that vibe. You know, it's not, Cara Delevingne didn't really stick around on that
No,
show,
no. But from what I've read
and
about
so
this movie, I
yeah,
think Saldana and Gascon seem like more of a standout than her
yeah,
anyways, kind of like
and
Short and,
we're gonna have Lady
Martin.
Gaga in the mix and Best Actress, so I think we already have our pop star
Yeah,
of the year
yes. We'll
vying
also
for
have The
Oscar
Rock
Gold.
apparently later on,
Is
for
that
his
this
Best New
year?
Movie. Supposedly, it's coming out late
Okay.
this year, but we'll see. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah,
yeah,
I definitely
so
think Zoe Saldana is your supporting actress contender for
mhm.
this movie. Um,
Especially
unless they
because
put
she's a
her in
co-lead.
yeah, unless they put her in actress just because she's the bigger name. You know, sometimes they do that where they want to put
Maybe.
the lesser known actor in supporting to give them a better shot. But if I mean,
Then I
there's a
think
world.
Carla Sofia Gascon would get nominated in supporting, maybe.
I mean, who's the contenders for supporting actress as far as a win? Because I feel like if depending on
Um,
the movie and knowing, you know, being familiar with her work and how I think she would approach this project, there is a chance, given that she's win competitive. She's won the only award that she's been up against so
Yeah.
far. I don't know. I'm very excited
Let's
about the possibility of this.
So the top supporting actress contenders on the award expert app, if no one has it. Number one is Daniel Deadwyler for The Piano Lesson, Anjanou Ellis
Okay.
Taylor for Nickel Boys, Isabella Rossellini for Conclave, Toni Collette for Juror Number Two, Natasha Lyonne for His Three Daughters, Maria Bakalova for The Apprentice, which we'll get to. She does not have a big enough role to be nominated for that. Leslie Manville for Queer. So yeah, there's not anything major happening in that
I
category.
think she top five. And this current stage,
Ooh,
in
you're
this current
cutting out.
station,
You're
in
cutting out
this
a little
current
bit. No, Anthony is frozen. We'll have to get the end of his thoughts in a second when he returns. So yeah, I think supporting actress is clearly there's some room there for whoever ends up being campaign and supporting actress to be a contender. International feature will be interesting. I believe it is a French production, even though a lot of it takes place in Mexico. So I think it would be France's choice to submit it. We'll have to see whether or not they choose to submit it, because sometimes they like with a film like Anatomy of a Fall, they ended up choosing they ended up choosing what did they choose last year? That eating movie, whatever it was called, The Taste of Things. They chose that, I think, maybe because it was a little more French than Anatomy of a Fall was, and I don't know how French they may go for a more French feeling film than this. But if they do choose to submit it, then it'll probably get into international feature. It could probably win international feature if they do choose to submit it. And then original score, it's a musical original song. There are original songs in it, and I've also heard good mentions for the cinematography as well. And as I also have doubts about France submitting it as well. It's set in Mexico, and there's a lot of Spanish, so it could end up being like an Anatomy of a Fall situation where it still ends up if it's not. This is all predicated on if it's Netflix's big push, because if it's not, honestly, I could only see it get like maybe like original song and one acting nom. If it is Netflix's big push, then look out for all of these. But what were you saying before the internet took you out, Anthony? Did you have any other thoughts?
Yes. Hopefully I'm here. I don't know what that was.
You are,
Um,
yes, yeah.
yeah, just that. I think overall positive on the movie. And I agree with all you're saying.
Okay, okay. Um, Queer is still not picked up by a distributor. I think it's hitting. I'm pretty sure it's going to hit Venice. We'll have to see if it gets picked up before then. But it is not currently Netflix. But Netflix is probably. I could see Netflix maybe trying to get Maria or something too. So I don't think they're done looking to buy stuff. But yeah, we'll have to see. This is currently, I think, their biggest contender. So we'll have to go based off of that. Next up, All We Imagine as Light, which was awarded the Grand Prix, pretty much second place, was picked up distributor by Janus Films, who their biggest Oscar success is Drive My Car. The premise is Prabha and Anu are Malai nurses living in Mumbai, who are both troubled by their relationships. The two embark on a road trip to a beach town where the mystical forest becomes a space for their dreams to manifest. I've heard it's a little kind of like Drive My Car, like a slower, more meditative film. The best reviewed, as we were talking about Metacritic earlier, a 93 is very impressive on Metacritic. So it is the singular best reviewed film of the festival. I'm very excited to see it. It sounds like something I would enjoy. But in terms of Oscar contender, I would say, unfortunately, probably not, because India will likely, if I were to guess, not submit it for international feature because the director's her previous film, which was a documentary, is has been pretty what would you say critical of India and the government and everything going on there. So I have doubts honestly that they'll end up submitting it, and if it doesn't if it's not an international feature contender, I don't know what else it would end up getting. I think, especially with Janus Films behind it, who isn't like a huge pusher, I think Drive My Car, like critics, as I say here, it'll probably be an end of year critics favorite like Drive My Car, but I don't know if it doesn't get that same critics push that Drive My Car got. I don't think it'll end up being the same level of contender, and especially because it won't get international, which Drive My Car did have. So unfortunately, maybe a Soul screenplay nom, but I think it'll probably just be a critics movie.
I think what we have to remember about Drive My Car is that was a film saved and buoyed by the critics.
Yeah,
I mean, it won the trifecta. It won
yeah,
LAFCA, LA Film Critics, it won New York Film Critics, and it won the
What's the
what's the
other
third
one?
one? Oh God, I don't think it was National Board of Review. It might have been National Board of Review, but I don't think so. But it won all three of the major critical circles.
Mhm,
And that is what made it a priority. It made it a higher priority screener, and that's what got it into Best Picture and Best Director and Best Screenplay, on top of it being then the international feature winner, the presumptive winner.
mhm.
Um, so that could happen for this movie, and then it gets that little support that it needs. But I agree. I mean, if I mean India and their relationship to filmmakers and certain movies. I mean, this is the reason why Monkey Man had to be saved by Jordan Peele, because it was made for
Yeah.
Netflix, and then Netflix was like, "This is too controversial," that they thought it would erupt chaos for their viewers in India, and that's why
Mhm.
then they let it go, and Jordan Peele picked it up. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with the kind of perspective on this movie's strategies, but also I'm sure Janus Films learned a lot with the Drive My Car
Yeah.
campaign, and it did win an Oscar. So if they can maybe apply that in the same way, if they can get in front of the right people at the right times, this is a movie I think that would benefit to going as many festivals as possible.
Yeah.
Because if
Yeah.
you just get to the point where so many people are loving this movie, then I think it can overcome this. I think people are becoming more aware of films outside the borders of America. And I think they are not, it's not the local award show that it even was 5 years ago when Bong Joon Ho gave it that moniker.
Yeah.
So you never know, but I agree. It's probably one that is maybe it's has more obstacles in its way than most.
Yeah, yeah, and I think we'll talk about this also with another film. I think the Academy really needs to switch up whatever their system is with the international. I think having, like, a government having, like, a prejudice towards a specific filmmaker or, like, political belief system and having that to completely deny it from contention, I think it should be fixed, but it won't be fixed this year, unfortunately.
I mean, I think, and we've talked about a lot of reform with this category over the years. I think the issue is that the Academy Awards it's very similar to the Electoral College, and that when it was
Yes.
designed and when this category was introduced, it was meant to put a spotlight on other countries, and because they knew at that time that those other countries were rarely going to get into the main categories.
Yeah.
And so I think in their idea, it almost feels like the Olympics. Like the country is proud of the submission they're sending because they're
Mhm.
sending it to the big leagues of cinema. That is
Yeah.
Hollywood. And so I think the issue now is that it's very similar to what happened in somewhat in the 70s, but really in the 90s, when cinema was kind of starting to operate in two modes. And you saw, the highest grossing movie of the year wasn't always necessarily a best picture nominee or winner. And so
Mhm.
I think we're seeing that now with the international films, because they're emboldened and they have a little bit more teeth to them. Of course, we've seen that in our films over the past couple decades.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what it is. But I agree with you. I think that the reason the category exists doesn't really jive with the artistic pursuits of filmmakers across the world, as we are seeing more and more so nowadays. And
Mhm.
it's weird to me because I feel like the only solve would be to, like, I don't know how you fix that, because then we have to worry about, well, then what if four French movies get made,
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
nominated in the category? Do you take the category away? But that seems counterintuitive to what you're trying to do. So it's a
It's
difficult
tricky.
conversation.
It is. It's a tricky thing to figure out, but I do think something needs to be done. I don't think the current system works. I think
Mhm.
trying something else out, but as I said, not this season, unfortunately. Next up, we have, as we were talking about in the chat, Megalopolis. Mega shop this movie away, please. Awards,
No,
LOL.
shot
Distributor,
shake the
LOL.
movie away, police.
Yeah, Police. Oh yeah, sorry, not police. Police. Um, yeah, so in case you guys didn't know the premise, an architect played by Adam Driver aims to rebuild a decaying metropolis into a sustainable utopia despite the mayor, played by Giancarlo Esposito, his commitment to the regressive status quo. If you can even make a plot out of this based off the reviews. 58 on Metacritic is not terrible, to be honest. It seems like you either really love this movie, like David Albright, who is usually a pretty like critical critic. Really loved the movie, but it seems like lots of people like either love it or like really don't like it. More people probably don't like it. Pretty much lots of people calling it very messy, very like he had like 10,000 different thoughts in his brain and concepts and themes and just put them all into one movie, saying that the tone is very inconsistent. Like every actor is acting at a very different tonal level, like in a different film. I saw some people compare the acting to like Tommy Wiseau room level stuff, which is interesting. So yeah, and also I poor Francis Ford Coppola. I don't think if he wanted this to be picked up by a distributor, I don't think he went about it quite the right way, to be honest.
Did you just say poor Francis Ford Coppola?
I know, I know. I do feel a little bad for him. This is like a passion project of his, and he poured so much of his own money into it.
It
But I
exists.
think he.
I think that I think that's the win
Mhm,
for him. You know, as a filmmaker, I think
yeah.
he's happy this movie exists. As he said so himself, I thought that was one of the more astute um, responses in the Q and
Mhm.
the talent Q&A.
Conference.
Was
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to care who how much money I spent. The movie exists and it'll outlive me. I won't care when I'm
Yeah.
dead because I'm dead. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think this really needs a streamer. And I say that as somebody who wants every movie to get a big theatrical presentation. I just think that I think just looking at reality, I don't know what distributor wants to take the chance on this. Um, unless they just have no intention of doing anything with it. Because it doesn't seem like it's gonna reach enough people because, we talk about movies that, like, Don't Look Up, that are, down,
Mhm.
very you love it or you hate it, Babylon,
Yeah.
you love it or you hate it. This movie, if it wants to succeed in this conversation, it wants to be a Don't Look Up and not a Babylon, and I think that's why the streaming
Yeah.
thing comes into play, especially with a cast of this size, especially because you look at the talent. You have Aubrey Plaza, Giancarlo Esposito, I believe. These are
Mhm.
more actors you're used to finding on
Lawrence
television.
Fishburne.
Exactly. Not to
Oh, on television.
denigrate them, of course, because television and film are,
Mhm.
the Venn diagrams that are becoming an eclipse of each other. At least for now. Hopefully, we're stretching them back out again, because they're two
Hopefully,
mediums for a
yes.
reason. Hacks season 3 finale, watch it tonight.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I think just if this movie wants to be a contender in that way, I think it's streaming is the way to go. Um, but I still don't know. I think this is a movie that's looking for below the line nominations, maybe production design, visual effects. Again, we
I
have
don't
to
think
see
it's
it.
gonna do anything,
Um,
honestly.
but I think maybe in a lesser year, with less competition, maybe. But I think we have so many big, like,
Tech.
extravagant technical achievements, and we're
Mhm.
not even halfway through the year. I mean, you could fill the category now with
You could,
5
yeah.
worthy contenders in cinematography and film editing, and so
And we still have Gladiator 2.
yeah, so I feel
Yeah.
like to me this is feeling a little bit like what the big epic Ridley, like, it's funny, because Coppola comes from that group of, Scorsese, De Palma, Spielberg, Lucas, Coppola. And to me,
Mhm.
I kind of feel like he's Coppola is turning more and more into the Ridley Scott of that group to me, where, like, of course his name gets you to tune in and he makes these big epic movies, but a lot of times they might be a little bit too much for the average viewer.
Oh, for
And
sure.
so, yeah, and I think I don't think Adam Driver is gonna bring people along in the way that
No,
you
his career
need a movie
trajectory has
star
been
to.
interesting the last few years, to say the
Yeah.
least. Adam
So,
Driver. Um,
yeah,
yeah.
listen, I see the IGN 90. I know some people are
Yeah.
gonna love
IGN
this
is
movie.
yeah.
And listen, stand here. I am sitting right now, but I am
Mhm.
a Babylon defender, and I know some people would
Oh, I love
probably have
Babylon,
a
yeah.
very similar reaction to that movie that I know some people are having to this. So I get it, but I think, Babylon in the end didn't do that well,
Three
and
nominations, 0
I
wins.
think at least Babylon had a better release date, which so far this movie doesn't have,
Yeah.
and
If it even
this,
comes out this year, honestly, we'll see.
yeah. And I do think, strangely enough, I think there is more interest in Damien Chazelle's next work than Coppola's, I think, at this point.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Coppola doesn't have, like, a La La Land that came out a few years ago, which was a huge global
Yeah.
hit. There's just not
Now,
as
The
much
Godfather,
interest
I
in
think The Godfather will last you 50 years, but I don't know if it lasts you 52.
Yeah, not quite 52. Yeah, so I'm still excited to see it. Also, whoever picks it up, the whole campaigning around this is going to be difficult because there's also been lots of exposés and thoughts on stuff that happened
Yeah.
on set with Francis Ford Coppola and extras, female extras, some just unfortunate behavior, as well as getting high pretty much every day on set. It was his own money, so I guess that's his own choice. But yeah,
Yeah,
I just don't think.
it being his own money doesn't excuse the behavior if it is proven to be
No.
true.
Oh, no, no, not the high part. If it's his own money, I don't have an issue with that. But the making other people feel comfortable and touching people is obviously an issue.
Mhm.
So yeah, I just don't see this. Who would you think would even pick? I don't. Who's gonna? Because he wants like a certain amount of money and a certain marketing budget that I don't think he's gonna get. And I think right now he's still holding out for that like specific amount of money and commitment. IMAX has apparently committed to at least like a weekend of it being shown.
I think
I don't know who's gonna pick
if
it.
I'm gonna make a bet right now, I think this has Amazon Prime written over it because they will put the movie
Wouldn't
in
they have gotten
theaters.
it already though?
I think if I'm Amazon Prime, I am waiting for the movie to not get picked up anywhere else so that I don't have to pay as
Hmm,
much as Coppola maybe wants them to, and also I don't have to keep it in
yeah,
theaters for as long. I think they wanted to be a special IMAX limited engagement and then go to streaming over Thanksgiving or some holiday. And I think that would be my advice for this film. Again, I am not a supporter of shunting movies to streaming because I think then ignoring what Ted Sarandos said about Barbenheimer being just as popular if it was a streaming release. It just
he's
isn't.
insane.
But I also think you have a commitment to the film to try and if you are an awards pundit and you are trying to get it awards and nominations because that is the way people are going to get eyeballs on the movie. If that is your job, I think you have to do the best choice you have, and that to me feels like the best choice for this movie.
That's the
Get the
best case
cinephiles to
scenario.
IMAX and then put it on Amazon Prime where the rest of the people will give it a shot.
Yeah, that's the best case scenario. Honestly, I could see like he might end up like if he waits too long, like a movie picks it
Mhm.
up or something, which is obviously like a
Yeah.
worst case scenario. But we'll have to see. It'll be very interesting. The journey of this film has already been quite
Mhm.
interesting, and we don't even know
Yeah.
when we're going to be seeing it.
I
So
also
yeah.
think we have to acknowledge we're going into, despite, the beginning of the year feeling a little stale, we're going into a pretty packed fall, winter movie
Oh
season
yeah,
when it comes to big movies. I mean, we have Beetlejuice, Joker 2, Wicked, Moana 2. Say what you
Gladiator
will about The
2.
Lion King, but The Lion King, the Mufasa Lion King is a sequel to one of the top 10 highest grossing movies of all
Hmm.
time. Gladiator 2. We have big ass movies coming out for the fall, and then you
Yeah,
have all the independent crowd. So where does a movie like
no one's gonna go
Megalopolis
to the.
fit?
It's yeah. It doesn't fit.
Yeah,
People didn't go see Furiosa this past week, and people are not gonna go see
yeah,
Megalopolis.
yeah.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
people didn't go to Babylon, and granted the Rotten Tomato score, I guarantee you, hurt that. But also,
Oh, this
like,
doesn't have a good one either. Yeah.
yeah, and I think let me look. I would bet you
I
Babylon
think
has a
it's
higher
rotten.
Metacritic score. I know
Oh,
it's rotten. I
probably
want to see if
this
that's better
Metacritic
than
score is gonna go someone mentioned it in the comics, this Metacritic score, I think, is going to go down. I do
yeah.
think Kang was a good place
Babylon
for it to
is
debut.
61. That's green for
Mhm,
Metacritic. It
mhm.
actually has a higher
Yeah.
Metacritic than a Rotten Tomatoes, funnily enough.
Oh,
So,
go Metacritic.
yeah, critics know what up. Well, because I assume the critics who are on Metacritic have maybe I would guarantee you the percentage of critics on Metacritic have a deeper knowledge of film history
Oh, yeah.
than
They're
Rotten
much
Tomatoes.
more picky about who they let do reviews on Metacritic than Rotten Tomatoes. So I trust. That's why I Rotten Tomatoes has a lot of issues with it. Metacritic I trust more. Um, so yeah, is it an Oscar contender? LMAO? No, I don't think so. I don't think. I honestly, even if it gets picked up by like an Amazon or something, which I don't know if it will be. I don't think it's gonna get tax. It's far too divisive to get anything above the line. So no, I don't think it is an Oscar contender. Um, I think that's pretty much it on Megalopolis. The big thing that happened. The Apprentice, one big thing to another. Interesting. It did not win any awards at Cannes. This is the most interesting part about this to me. It still does not have a distributor, which I would have I'm honestly shocked it still doesn't have one. For people who don't know, this is the story of young
You know
Donald Trump
why it
and
doesn't
his
have a
real estate business
distributor?
in the 70s and 80s.
You know why? Because it
Why?
does. And it's every single news channel and your social medias.
Yeah,
That's the distributor.
yeah,
I mean, I was tuning in because, the history was made today.
yeah.
I'll like,
34 time
yeah.
convicted.
Um,
Yeah,
he was found guilty. Yes, he was.
yeah.
Well, anyway, that comes in July
Whatever
when he gets the
terms. Yeah,
sentencing.
yeah,
Legal jargon. But
yeah.
there was no commercials. I'd never seen a news channel run without commercials for that long. So
Hmm.
I told I mean, just clip out what I said last episode. I think that this movie is in a very awkward time because I think no matter what happens over the next 6 months, I don't think people are in the mood for this, no matter how good it is. The 61 indicates that you have people who are on both sides of the
Hmm.
aisle when it comes to their
Yep.
feelings towards wanting to see this movie. Um, I think it doesn't have the hot buzz that you need to, you know, overcome that. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, I think that I just don't. This feels like maybe it's a little tiny indie, theatrical indie will pick up eventually. But I could also see this being a movie that just really maybe like it takes. I like it could be one of those movies that premieres at fall festivals, but doesn't come out until like the spring of next year and isn't really looked at as an
That would
awards
be
contender.
bad. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it would be bad, but
Iron
I
Claw or
also would
something.
understand
Yeah.
it because again, we cannot separate what's happening
Oh no,
over
you
the next
can't.
6 months from this movie. And I just don't know what a war like who's gonna. I still don't know who the target audience is for this movie because I don't
Yeah.
unless they think people are gonna go see it as a if the history and the next months play out like this as a celebration of the but even then it's not going to be a celebration because
No
people are going
matter
to be
the
fearful
outcome.
for
Yeah,
January. It's not
yeah,
this is I don't understand why this movie was made now. It feels like when they made the
well,
Boston Marathon bombing only 3 years after the Boston
yeah.
Marathon. Like we got to have people distance. We can't
It
reflect
ha
on this yet.
it is going to have the most attention it will ever have, though, because it is
Mhm.
releasing. And if you are a believer of the all news is good news, which I don't know if I'm personally a believer of that, but I mean, Donald Trump and his team are suing this film. I forget who, one of like the Donald Trump believer dudes, like invested in this film thinking it was going to be a positive portrayal of him. And now he, because he's not the brightest dude, um, is suing because
And
I don't know. It's a
I
whole thing.
I want to be clear. I understand that this movie isn't about Trump now, it's about Trump then, but Trump then is Trump now. There's no, separating it, and the people making it, I'm sure, will draw parallel lines to what's happening today. So, yeah, I mean, if you wanna
And
jump to
from
what we
Yeah,
think as far as
also just from what I've read, it doesn't commit like enough to a specific side. Like it's a little more down the
yeah.
aisle politically than maybe people would like. But it's an Oscar contender. I do think it is still an Oscar contender a little bit, to be honest. Depending on who picks it up, I honestly thought Netflix was going to pick it up, but they obviously picked something else. Um, it is being distributed in like the UK and other places in Europe by I forget what um, company it is, but it's the same company that usually distributes Focus features films, I believe. Focus or Searchlight, one of those two. But I don't know if they're going to end up picking it up. We'll see. Um, Either way, I don't think it'll get picture, which is why I say borderline. I could still see it getting actor and supporting actor because he's playing Donald Trump, and from what I've read, Jeremy Strong is doing Jeremy Strong acting stuff as Roy Cohn, which is a juicy role. Because he's a terrible person. And who knows? Original
But
screenplay is a little
Jeremy
barren.
Strong's Jeremy Strong, I still think, has to fight the perspective of being a television actor, which will hurt him here in this race. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
to an extent. I mean, I love the guy, and I think he's one of our great actors. But he still
Hmm.
has. I don't think this is the movie to make the transition. But listen, Bryan
Yeah,
Cranston did it with Trumbo, so what do I know? Let
yeah.
me ask you this: what is the movie you like in this too? What movie similar
I would
to
say
this?
best case scenario is Vice, but I don't know if
Okay,
that's going to happen.
Adam McKay is a Hollywood
Hmm.
entertaining director, and I think that's what this movie. No disrespect to the filmmaker, but that
Ali
really
Abassi,
helped
yeah.
people because people found Vice, for better or worse. I certainly found it engaging and entertaining, as well as having the darkness that it should have for the
And that was
story
in
it
the
told.
past. Like Dick
he
Cheney
walked.
was gone.
Yes, he
He's
was
not
gone
around.
at that point. It had only been, 10 years. Um,
Yeah.
but, that's why listen, I as much as maybe I should give it a second chance because I love Big Short and I love Vice. So, but I think
Oh,
we
I
got
don't like this.
they walk that balance really well, and the I just I don't how can this movie be entertaining in this
I do think,
climate?
like, people if Donald Trump and his team continue to, like, go for this film as much as they currently are, like, legally and all that, I do think that could maybe just make some people vote for it, like, despite it, like, as just like, okay, in a way of
Mhm.
going against Trump, but I don't know. We'll see. I think it's really just an acting contender mostly is what I would say. And even then, supporting actor and actor, both from what I'm looking at, have enough contenders from other movies that if the film ends up falling off, that it just doesn't get anything. But it could be this year's Naiad
Yeah.
with
Oh
2
god.
acting nods.
Um, I will say to Black Toad's point about Sterling K. Brown, I do think it helps when
Mhm.
you're in a top three contender Best Picture.
Yeah,
That
this will
that
not be bad,
pushed him
yeah.
along, and that he had other work leading up to this. Really, I'm just thinking about Jeremy Strong's movie work where he would have been in this conversation. I mean, Trial of Chicago 7, really? I mean, Big Short, like these were these are the two big. I mean, Armageddon Time, I guess, but I think I felt that the only conversation for that movie was really Anne Hathaway. So he's had his work, but
I
I
still
still
think he
think,
can get in.
and Sterling K. Brown, his television work that defined his career was, This Is Us, the beginning of This Is Us when he was winning the awards and playing Chris Darden on The People vs. O.J. Simpson, American Crime Story. Those, I mean, we're coming up on what, 8, 9 years since The People vs. O.J. Simpson and the start, like that was 2016,
Yeah.
right? So that's 8 years ago. So, Succession ended less than a year ago, right?
Mhm.
Or last week was or this week
Yeah,
was the
pretty much a
final.
year. Yeah.
So, I still think people still see him as Kendall Roy. It's like, Daniel Radcliffe or Emma Watson leaving Potter. Like it took a little while for
Mhm.
us to not see them in those roles anymore. So I think that has a
Maybe.
part to play in this too. I do think if, when he gets nominated, hopefully for a Tony, did he get nominated for a Tony for an enemy of the people? Let me look that
Probably.
up because then that's a step in the right direction. Like Jessica Chastain getting that Tony nom after Isa Tammy Faye. You
Yeah.
separate yourself from the major role that just either
Mhm.
launched or pushed you forward in your career.
I do think I don't know how much that would hold because I think there's a lot of goodwill for him in his Kendall performance as well. So
Mhm.
I don't know how it could hurt him. I think the biggest factor is really just how much of a contender the film is overall. Like
He was
if it
nominated
falls
for a Tony.
off, then it doesn't. He was okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I think he's
that's
a very
that's
respected
expected.
actor overall in general.
He is,
He's
but
very
this is a new,
committed to his craft.
you know.
Yes, true,
So
true.
yeah, so we'll see. I
Um,
guess I
yeah.
is it an Oscar contender? I guess yes, but I don't know.
How does
I'm still
Trump's conviction affect this film's Oscar chances?
I don't
Who
poorly.
knows? As much as
I
it
don't think
affects the election, probably not at all. Yeah,
let's
let's
hope
move
not.
on. Yeah. Kinds of Kindness. It did win an
Woo.
award at Cannes. It won Best Actor for Jesse Plemons, who, from what I've read, is like the lead in like 2/3 of there's 3 stories because it's an anthology film. He's like the lead in 2 of the 3. So they'll probably, if they even campaign for this film, push him in supporting part, I guess. But yeah, it's an anthology movie about a man without a choice who tries to get control of his life. I'm guessing that's Jesse Plemons. A policeman who is alarmed that his wife, who was missing at sea, has returned and seems a different person. I think that's Jesse Plemons as well. And then a woman determined to find someone special. It's probably not Jesse Plemons. Um, yeah, pretty good reviews. Not as rave of reviews as Poor Things or even The Favorite. Quite from what I've heard. From what I heard, the first anthology film is good. The second one, oh wait, no, the first, I forget what the order was, but one of them was not. One was good, one was really good, and one was not quite as good. I
Yeah,
think
I mean
the first one was
that's
the
the
best.
risk
The
you
second
run.
was the worst, and the third was like middle of the road. Is I think what it was. But
That's
yeah.
the risk you run with these because they're not
Mhm,
all going to be at the same level that you want them to be. Um,
mhm.
I think Jesse Plemons is definitely a major threat in Best Actor with this. I
Potentially,
think,
yeah.
I mean, we
Playing 2
cannot
different
discount
people. Yeah.
Yorgos. We can't discount Yorgos when it comes to actors. I mean,
No.
in my book, he's 2 for 2 as far as getting the leads, an Oscar.
Mhm.
And so I
Yeah.
think, and Jesse Plemons is so beloved. I think this is an act. So to talk about an actor, started in television, worked his way, really started taking these really interesting
He's
independent
so good.
roles. And now I think, he is so just respected, part of one of our great power couples of the industry.
Yes, as
Um,
mentioned, both have,
yes,
Cannes Acting Awards as well.
yeah. So I think this is definitely I think if you want to jump, I think that this is a contender definitely
Really?
for best actor.
I don't
Um,
think it is really. I think
oh
original
yeah,
screenplay and Jesse Plemons,
because I
maybe,
think
but I don't think it'll
yeah,
get either of those.
I don't think it's a guaranteed picture because I think it'll be unfavorably compared to Poor Things, and then people will think of it as lesser. But I think Best Actor for sure. I think it could definitely pull him along. Um, and yeah, I think if screenplay is a little open, because his scripts are so quirky, and The Lobster got in, and of course Favorite got in, and
Yeah,
Poor
and
Things
it's
got in,
3
and so
different stories.
yeah. So I think those two I would definitely put definitely listen, if you put yes to The Apprentice, then yes, I think there are
Yeah,
contenders and kinds of kindness for those two. Also, you
maybe.
cannot in this era. There are sentences I love to say. I'm going to say this one. You cannot discount Emma Stone. She is beloved, but
Yeah,
I
but,
don't think there is an actor who has come
uh
along in the last 20 years that is as
oh, I love Emma Stone. I just don't
just
think it's happening for this.
admired, but do not discount her involvement with this. I think she is dangerously getting close to the type of Meryl Streep. If she's in a movie, they will nominate her, depending on the role and depending on what category they submit her. If she's in supporting, maybe she fares a better chance. We'll
Maybe in
see.
supporting, yeah,
Um,
but I
I
don't
just I think I really think, especially with her producing. At some point, we're going to have to talk about one of the best movies I've seen in my life, which is I Saw the TV Glow, which you produced. Um,
Oh, yeah.
I
A
just
Real Pain
you
as well
can't
coming out later this year.
I just don't think you can discount. You have an Emma Stone Yorgos Lanthimos movie. Those so far, I mean, favorite was the most nominated movie of its year. 10 out of 10,
It's not
10
a
or
Tony
10 nominations.
McNamara one, though, which, as
I
Roberto
understand that,
mentions, it's written by the other guy who wrote Dogtooth and Killing of a Sacred Deer with, and it fits much more of those vibes, which I think are less Academy friendly.
but I also think that yes, Tony McNamara maybe helped Yorgos maybe be seen as a little bit more mainstream, but now he is like people know who Yorgos
Yeah.
Lanthimos is, and I don't imagine Kinds of Kindness being more out there when it comes to the premise that as Poor Things. So I think people know his vibe, they know his atmosphere, and who knows if those movies had come out post Poor Things, which was the second most nominated film of its year with 11 nominations,
Yeah.
maybe they would have fared better. Maybe Colin Farrell sneaks into Best Actor for The Lobster. I think you got to look at things in the here and now. And all I know is that Jesse Plemons, Emma Stone, and Yorgos Lanthimos are three of the most beloved people of this industry. And I definitely think they're getting in over Donald Trump.
I don't think so. I don't know, because you mentioned this a lot. You compare actors and directors oftentimes to their best work, and it sounds like besides Jesse Plemons, this isn't anyone else here's best work. And I don't think it's
Yeah,
Searchlight's biggest priority. It's releasing in the summer. I don't think it's going to sustain much all the way until next
a
year.
summer release. If a movie can capitalize on a summer release, it can also become a guaranteed contender through the season. We saw that with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. We saw that with Dunkirk. That could be what this movie is
Those are
because
big
I
hits. This is not a hit. This is not going to make any money.
well, it could be a hit on the independent. I mean, there have been Past Lives was an independent hit that managed to stick around. I'm just
That's
saying
a very different film than this, though.
it is a very different film, but it's also
I
coming
don't
from
know.
people that are at the top of their game. I mean, I just don't think that you can say that this has one of the most popular movie stars in it. It has an independent actor that I think people would love to praise in Jesse
Mhm.
Plemons, and it's from a director who routinely gets double-digit Oscar nominations. If the movie is in
Twice.
any way
It's only happened
twice,
twice. It's not like
all
he's
right,
not
but
like a
it's his
Spielberg or
last two
Scorsese.
movies. And
Yeah,
you look at
it's
Christopher
destined
Nolan
to
for his
stop.
last two. Christopher Nolan's last two awards contenders. You have Dunkirk and you have Oppenheimer.
There's
Both
also
did
Tenet.
really well. That's why I said awards contenders. Did very,
Mhm.
very well. If he announced another awards contender like movie, of course you're considering it favorably because they seem to like him recently. And yes, I
Christopher
understand there's always going
Nolan
to be
is
caveats,
not
but
Yorgos Lanthimos, though.
listen,
Yorgos is
I am just saying you put not really next to this one and you put yes for The
I guess this is
Apprentice.
one we'll have to disagree on because I don't think
Yes,
this is a big contender. I think we have two different
saying it's a
opinions
huge
here.
contender. I'm just saying I think it can. I'm not talking about wins. I think nominations. I think you are under predicting it. I think Jesse
Maybe,
Plemons is
maybe.
definitely. Yeah, he got in for Power of the Dog when nobody was expecting him, and he
Yeah, but
won this
Power of the
award.
Dog was a huge movie.
Yes, but I'm
This
just
is not.
saying he gets in when we don't think he will get in. So now that if he keeps winning these sort of awards,
He could get in.
there's a
Yeah.
world where he gets in. I mean, look at 2016 and how many, or 2021, how many acting contenders or not in Best Picture contenders. If this doesn't make it to Best Picture, he can still get in, and Emma Stone could get in if she's put in supporting. I
I
just
think
don't
they're
don't.
gonna someone asked, do they go lead or support? I feel like they'll put them all in supporting is what I would guess, just because that's the safest thing to do. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I've also heard that some of the sex scenes are even more intense in Kinds of Kindness. And I don't know, we'll have to see. I do agree with Alejandro. We talked about this last week. I think I would consider myself early on the Night Bitch train compared to other people, but I think more people are hopping on the Night Bitch train every day, and we welcome you all aboard. I do think it's Searchlight's biggest contender. They put it in their prime release date. It's Mariel Heller, it's Amy Adams. Yeah, I think it's their priority. Currently, they could pick something else up, but right now I
Mhm.
think it is the number one.
I
Um,
think that is the one they want to position the strongest because I think it
mhm,
needs a really strong support system.
yeah,
Um,
for sure.
but I think they are anticipating what they hope is an Amy Adams groundswell, and it could
I think
very well
there will
be
be.
there for her. So we'll see how that goes. But
And Mariel Heller,
um,
I think, is overdue for a little more attention.
yeah, I think she's due for any attention. I think that's been her
I know. That's
problem. Nobody
yeah,
knows who she
yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah. And she's delivered Oscar acting nominees with her last two films.
Yeah.
So,
And
um,
the screenplay got nominated for Can You Ever Forgive Me?
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
she was
I
in
forget
Queen's
if
Gambit.
I don't think did A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood get a screenplay nomination?
No,
I
that
don't
was just Tom
think so.
Hanks.
Okay, that's right.
Just Tom Hanks. I'm glad you've been on the train, Alejandro. We're recruiting more people every day. That's one of my big beliefs. That Gladiator 2, Juror number
Yeah.
2.
Um,
Those are some of my beliefs.
to Black Toad's point, I agree it could be an issue, but at the same time, it didn't stop Inglorious Bastards. So
Yeah, I
there's
don't
a
think
I
so, too. I think
there's
it
an
makes it
art
stand
to
out a
it.
little bit. It's like, ooh,
Makes it
edgy.
stand out. But I do think that some people, I know some people who like do not like that word. It's been brought up, I think, in like sitcoms and stuff.
It's a
So
dog.
we'll
That's
see.
what they're
I
saying
get,
with the title.
but
Bitch
you
means
gotta
dog
know
in this
it's a dog.
situation. Female
I
dog.
understand that, but you gotta know it's a dog, and I don't know. I think people hear the title and back to what we've talked about before. Sound of Metal. They hear the flimsiest description of the movie and they get turned off. It's a factor, but hopefully not one that
Mhm.
dissuades too many people.
I do think Amy Adams fits the recent Best Actress winners, though. Weird, out there,
Mhm.
sci-fi. We'll see. Um, Next
Sci-fi.
movie, The Seed of the Sacred Fig, won a special award, being distributed by Neon. Lots of people, including me, I think, at least towards the end of the festival, I thought that this was going to end up winning the Palm, and they would give Anora something else, and that this would be Neon's win because for those who don't know, the director of this film pretty much fled and escaped Iran and prison there because of his political and because of this film and his political views and all that. The premise is investigating Judge Aman grapples with paranoia and political unrest in Tehran. When his gun vanishes, he suspects his wife and daughters imposing draconian measures that strain family ties as societal rules crumble. As you can see by the Metacritic, it was like one of the top three best reviewed films of the festival. Lots of people love it. Um, I guess we can get into it now. I did think that there was a path towards it being an Oscar contender, but this is the other international film we can talk about. It's not getting submitted by Iran, obviously. They were thinking about to imprison him, so no. And it didn't win any big awards. I thought it could maybe get director or the Palme d'Or, and it just got a special prize. It didn't place in the top three. It was really just like an honoring of the film. And I think Neon will now prioritize Anora. And if it can't get international, I don't know what else it really could get. It'll probably get some critics' love, but I don't unfortunately think it's an Oscar contender.
I agree. I think what everything that you said is very apt and appropriate for the film's chances, though. Of course, very interested to see it, and it's a wonderful story, and that could always help it. A great story could always help a campaign, and this is
Yeah,
it's one full of tragedy, but one that we respect as far as continuing the future of filmmaking.
yeah. And the premise of the film, it sounds very good to me. I think I will enjoy it. Thriller, a little bit. Who knows? The Substance. This is an interesting one. It won Best Screenplay, awards-wise at Cannes. Distributed by Mubi. It's about a fading celebrity played by Demi Moore who decides to use a black market drug, a cell-replicating substance that temporarily creates a younger, better version of yourself, or herself, in this case, played by Margaret Qualley. It's a body horror film. Pretty well reviewed. I did note that the detractors of this film, a lot of the positive reviews for this film were from men, and more of the negative reviews were from women. So just keep that in mind, I guess. I guess different perspectives from different people on the film. But I mean, 80, as we mentioned, 83 on Metacritic is still very good. I do think most people still really enjoyed it. Lots of people thought Demi Moore could potentially win Best Actress. Unfortunately not. I do think, I guess if we quickly want to go into it, I don't think it's an Oscar contender, but I do think Demi Moore will get lots of like smaller critics' Best Actress mentions, but they don't really go for horror films. Unfortunately, like Toni Collette in Hereditary, one of the best performances of the last decade, not nominated. So I don't think she'll get some mentions, but I don't think this is really. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to it, but I don't think it's really anything awards-wise.
Yeah, I believe Corley Fargett, who was if I'm pronouncing their
Yeah,
name correctly, I believe she was her previous film was Revenge. So it seems that this is not necessarily the Oscar flavors that
no,
we
no.
tend to see, but it's if we get to, it could be a Demi Moore or bust sort of situation. So let's see the film. And let's see what happens. But screenplay was definitely interesting for this sort of film.
Yeah, because from what I heard, it was more of a directing standout than a writing standout, but they maybe just wanted to award it somewhere, and that's the only place they had left. And yeah, it is interesting that Universal did go in. They dropped the distribution of this film, which is just weird. So now it's with Mubi, which is, as mentioned before, not quite as well as distribution wise as Universal would be.
Yeah,
Um, but interesting. I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll probably hit some festivals before. I think it releases in late September currently. So yeah, in makeup, I don't think so because they don't usually go for horror films in makeup. They usually go for biopic transformation
period.
stuff, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Period stuff. Yeah.
Disney live action fairy tales.
Yeah. We don't have any of those this year. So
Mufasa the Lion King.
then that's gonna get makeup.
No, I'm just saying we have
No,
one.
I know. We do have one, I guess. Yeah. That's an original story though. Kind of. Um
Sure, it isn't.
if to if to I'm sure it's not too. If Titan had been nominated for something at the Oscars, it could have picked. Yeah, I could see it being similar to Titan wise as well. Um, so yeah, I don't think it's really going to happen. And yes, Wicked is a musical for sure. That's something it is. Moving on. Bird. This one kind of had a pretty low level, pretty quiet debut at Cannes. Didn't win any awards. Also being distributed by Mubi. Lots of people thought it was going to be A24 or Neon at first, but we've talked about this film a few times. It's about Bailey, the younger actress right there, who lives with her brother Hunter and her father Bug, played by Barry Keoghan and what's his name, Franz Rogowski, who raises them alone in a squat. But they don't have much time to devote to them, so she looks for attention elsewhere. Yeah, seems like pretty well Actually, that 69 kind of says otherwise. Decently reviewed, not a little mixed. Um, Lots of people seem to like either like when it first debuted, lots of people said it was like really, really good, but it seemed like as it continued on, less people were as hot on it. Yeah, Andrea Arnold. I don't really think this is, as we can talk about. I didn't even add anything. I just don't think it's an Oscar contender, so I just put no. But I look forward to. I've heard it's a lot more of like the naturalistic performances from Nicky Adams, and I'm not sure if we've really seen that stuff from Barry Keoghan before. More like subtle, naturalistic. I'm trying to think. Usually, it's a little more grand. So it'll be interesting to see him in that manner. We can talk about Furiosa. Won no awards, distributed by Warner Brothers. You all know the premise because actually, I was going to say you've all seen it. Clearly, you've not because it's not doing very well at the box office. But it's a Furiosa origin story. Surprisingly high Metacritic, in my opinion. Have you seen this film, Anthony?
I have a friend who wanted to go, and frankly, I don't know if this is going to be a movie I want to see more than one. So I'm waiting to see it this weekend.
Mm,
Um,
yes.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I have no ill will against this movie, but I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't understand why you took one of the most popular action heroines, one of the most great original characters of the last 10 years, and then not brought the actor who made her interesting. Like, I'm sorry. I thought Mad Max Fury Road was a great film,
Yeah,
but
yeah, it
the
was.
script did not make that character it,
No.
that instantly iconic. It was Charlize Theron. Two words that should have been plastered all over this movie. I don't understand it, especially because from what people are
And
saying, there's a lot of flashbacks to a younger actor. So you could have done that, and
half of the film is a
had
younger actress,
I am sure they could have
and she's
reworked
great.
this story to keep Charlize in the movie. I don't, and you still could have had
I'm
Chris
not going to
Hemsworth.
I'm not going to spoil anything, but given the way the film ends, yes, there's a shocking lack amount of time between where this film ends and Fury Road, so it easily could have been Charlize. Anya
So
Taylor-Joy
yeah,
does do a very good job. She doesn't have
I'm
many
sorry,
lines, but
not
her
nothing
eyes are
against her.
fierce.
She's a wonderful,
But
wonderful actor. I've enjoyed her,
doing
but
a prequel film where I don't gain any more understanding of the character is kind of crazy, in my opinion. I don't
yeah.
understand. I honestly understand Furiosa less now after this film. Yeah, and I wasn't a huge fan of it. I don't know. I don't want to bash on Furiosa, but I, it didn't really
So
work for me personally.
listen, setting that aside, as far as awards chances, yeah, I think maybe a
It's a tech.
nod here or there in tech, but it's going up against Dune, it's going up against
Hmm.
Joker, and I think given that
It's a
Beauty
bomb.
and the Beast, I believe yes, it is a bomb that hurt, that definitely hurts it for sure.
Hmm.
We've talked about look at Babylon, money, box office
And it
does
compares
play a factor.
really poorly to the film that they loved.
That also hurt. I
It
mean, we
looks
were talking about
worse.
Poor
They do
Things.
clips of Fury Road over the credits at the end of this, and I'm like, why would you do that to yourself? You're kind of like just showing us a much better movie. But yeah,
And listen,
I
I will
think
say, Beauty and the Beast live action got 2 Oscar nominations for costume and production design. So I also think Wicked has a chance to get in there, given the history and its connection
for a
to
nomination,
one of
yeah.
the greatest American movies of all time, The Wizard of Oz.
Mhm.
So yeah, with those many big contenders, yeah, I don't see. I honestly think that
I'd say like
Furiosa, I
VFX
maybe
and production design,
sound.
maybe.
I think sound really.
Maybe sound. I think it'll
I
get
think
VFX. Even though the VFX is not great, it'll probably
I
still
don't.
get
I mean, Dune. I mean,
Dune,
maybe
Kingdom of the
Mufasa. I don't
Planet of the
know.
Apes, maybe Mufasa, maybe Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't know.
No, I don't see that happening. Maybe
And
Joker,
then
maybe
there's
Beetlejuice. I
there
don't
will
know.
they won't do
Maybe
Joker.
in the VFX. We'll see. Well, they could
Gladiator.
if they're just checking it off for everything. Gladiator.
Gladiator's getting in. Yeah,
Oh, you and your Gladiator. But
I
yeah.
love
So
Gladiator.
unfortunately, I
Twisters,
don't think. Maybe, maybe not.
Megalopolis. Yeah, it would be on borderline anyways for any of these tech categories. So one or two nominations, honestly, at most, is what I would say for Furiosa. Um, and pretty much this is the end of it. Other noteworthy things: Grand Tour, which is a more from what I heard, experimental film. Sounds interesting. Won Best Director for Miguel Gomez. Oh Canada got. You see with these next 4 films what a lot of Cannes this year was. Oh Canada got mixed negative reviews at a 59. Partenope got mixed negative reviews at a 58. Horizon, an American Saga, Chapter 1 of 4, is off to a middling start at a 50, and then Cronenberg is doing Cronenberg things with The Shrouds at a 57. So yeah, any thoughts on all of these mixed reviews for all of these movies? Any of them an Oscar contender? Horizon Chapter 1 is going to sweep the Oscars?
I don't think we'll see. Again, the Cannes audience is not the Academy, and so
No,
some of these might do well in other
but
places. If Horizon becomes a big box office contender, who
I have
knows?
doubts about that.
But
I think
I
Warner Brothers
don't.
is having
Yeah.
a rough summer.
Well, compared to last summer, yes.
Yeah, compared to last summer, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Warner Brothers, Dune, and
They'll have a good spring
Godzilla
and
X
fall
Kong. Yeah, they're gonna have an
because they'll
amazing
have
fall.
Beetlejuice and
And Joker.
Joker,
Yeah.
but their
So,
summer is not great.
well, what else is their summer? I'm trying to think.
It's
Besides
Furiosa,
Furiosa.
Horizon. I think that's
Uh-huh.
it. I don't think they really
It's
have
got to be
anything
one
else big.
more. Really? Oh,
Probably
wow.
one more.
All
I
right.
mean, what else would it be?
I don't know. You're probably right.
None of
But
the animated movies are them. I don't think there's really anything else.
all right. So, but don't worry, they'll be fine in the fall.
Yeah, they will. They'll make plenty of money in the fall. Thank you, Jordan. We will try and keep up the great work and content. We're trying. Who knows after this? We'll probably have some Emmys stuff soonish, and then we'll probably have to talk about
Tony's
those
stuff.
acting categories at some point. Yeah, Tony's.
Tony's
I
is
don't know
coming.
Tony's, so you'll have to grab Constance and bring her over. Let's see. Could The Girl with the Needle get a cinematography nom? There could be a surprise in cinematography
Yes.
like El Conde.
Cinematography. I think the cinematographers pay attention less to Oscar narratives than any other branch. So yes.
Yeah. Same go. I heard the cinematography in Partenope is also great, so I guess you could look out for that as well.
The Watchers, the M. Night Shyamalan family. I think it's his daughter.
That's not going to make a ton of money. Oh, well, I'm sure they probably have Trap too, then, right?
No, that's Universal.
Oh, interesting. They're at different studios.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that's not going to make them a ton of money. But I doubt it costs much, so who knows? And I think Seed of the Sacred Fig will surprisingly perform well despite Iran's opposition. Not winning anything big at Cannes was a matter of it premiering like maybe. I don't know. I think everyone on the jury had seen it, so I don't know how much that would really affect in terms of it getting awards. I don't know. I think the fact that it won't get an international submission and Neon really won't prioritize it kind of makes it pretty low level in terms of awards contending. And that's pretty much it for the Cannes Film Festival. A little recap. Look at all those movies. And
there you have it. I'm also looking at the graphic behind us, and the Festival de Cannes logo looks a lot like the same font as the Hunger Games.
Yep. Oh, yeah, who knows?
Especially because Cannes kind of looks like games from here.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit.
The way it's cut off.
Lots of fashion, like the Hunger Games. Yeah, I do think this is a weak award season, especially compared to last year. I think, especially with 10 nominations, we will have room for some interesting stuff like Gladiator 2, for sure.
Listen. Barbenheimer will be missed forever and always. That was a unique, once in a lifetime thing. Because I think if you take Barbenheimer out, Beetlejuice. No, we have Moana 2 and Wicked.
Oh, yeah. Only one of those will do well.
I listen, as much as I am a Disney fan, I am glad that Wicked is going to be, at least in the weekends, a hit or a success. It's going to be looked at more favorably than maybe another movie.
I think Moana is going to do better than Wicked.
No, you kidding me?
Money-wise,
did you see that trailer? Did you see that trailer?
It looked bad. Did you see Wicked's trailer? They both look bad.
Wicked's trailer was making everybody who knows Wicked cry, and once everybody gets to know Wicked,
how
then
many
they'll
people
cry
is
too.
that?
That's
I guess
it's one of the most highest grossing Broadway shows of all time. I think you need to.
Moana is one of the most streamed films ever.
And guess who doesn't buy movie tickets? 5-year-olds,
But
babysitting
their parents
devices.
do.
I will make a bet with you right now that Wicked will make more money opening weekend than
I
Moana
will
2.
take that. Opening
will
weekend
shake your
or
hand.
overall? I guess I'll take opening weekend
Well,
too.
opening weekend. If
And
you think it's going to
overall.
be a big hit out of the gate, because if you think that Moana 2 is going to be worse than Wicked, then you would think Wicked will make more money
I think they're both
overall.
going to be bad.
They're not good.
Honestly, at least in my opinion. I don't think I'm going to like either of them. I love
Universal
Moana, the first one, though.
making one of the biggest like investments into a brand in like so long. And Moana 2 was a Disney Plus. You remember those direct to DVD
Yeah.
sequels? Atlantis 2, Milo's Return.
Yep.
That's what we have here. They're packaging a
Yep.
television show,
They
putting it into a movie.
It worked amazingly
So-
for the Clone Wars. So
Oh yeah, it did. You want to go back to everybody hating
Yeah.
Ahsoka and thinking, "Oh my God, this is awful." People hated that movie. It has like an 18%
I
of
love
Rotten
it.
Tomatoes.
I love it.
I will defy gravity until I am told otherwise.
I don't know. Well, I guess that'll be our first. It's not really an award season bet, but our first bet of this movie year. I don't think we had any others. And Inside Out 2 screenplay nom like the first. I don't think so.
It would have, I
especially
think,
because it's a sequel.
Yeah, it would have to get other nominations. Pixar really hasn't.
Their sequels don't do well besides Toy Story. So
Yeah, I think Pixar post Toy Story 3 hasn't really been able to amass the sort of nomination totals that they used to in their heyday. I'm talking Incredibles, Finding Nemo, WALL-E. They were getting beyond the expected, even beyond Best Picture. I think like Incredibles showed up in sound editing or something. So we'll see if it's fantastic. If it's as good or better than the first, then maybe. You never know.
Maybe. But I doubt it. As Alejandro mentions, they don't take animated films as seriously now as they did like a decade ago. So yeah, that is it for this stream. We talked about the Cannes Film Festival. Expect a few others, as I mentioned, things coming up. Angie will be talking about the Tonys. We got the Emmys. We're gonna have to touch on the acting categories at some point. And yeah, all of that stuff and more. Where can they find you on the internet, Anthony?
At Twitter and Letterboxd, where you can go read my I Saw the CD Glow review because I love the movie and I want to keep talking about it. It should be in the conversation for all of these awards, but I don't think it will. But I will keep it alive, and I look forward to talking about it with as many people as I want to talk about it with because it's amazing.
Exactly.
It's brilliant.
It'll get awards at our end of year awards show, I'm sure.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So thank you all for watching. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and we'll see you in whatever video comes after this. And goodbye.